I lost 50 pounds in 3 months doing these three exact cardio workouts. And in today's video, I want to break down the exact cardio routine I followed to go from 245 pounds down to about 190 pounds back in my early 20s when I was struggling to really figure out this whole fitness thing. Cardio was an important part of my routine, and today's video is going to outline exactly what that looked like. What's up, guys? My name is Josiah Novak. I run a company called The True Transformation. We help guys 40 and older who have busy professional lives, family responsibilities, and of course, all the social and work responsibilities that come with all of that, who want to improve their health and fitness. Over the years, I've worked with thousands of guys in that category. And so on today's video, I'm just gonna outline some of the things that have helped me in my early transformation, but also all the guys I've worked with. So you might be wondering, like, why should I pay attention to you? Well, I've been in fitness for over 15 plus years, helped thousands of guys just like you, and I hope to save you the time and headache that I spent trying to figure out this whole thing called fitness. So in today's video, we're gonna talk about cardio specifically. And I just wanna be crystal clear. Cardio is just one piece of the puzzle. We have a system here called the 3M system, and it outlines the three key pillars that are required if you want to transform your health, your body, feel good about yourself again, get over some of the bad habits that you're dealing with, and be able to stick to your routine wherever you are. Those three things are movement, muscle, and meals. So I know you're probably wondering, like, is cardio the answer? Well, yeah, it's part of the answer. It's part of the equation. And we call it movement here at True Transformation. But there were a lot of mistakes I made when it came to cardio, and I'm gonna outline a lot of them today, but I'm gonna outline what I've learned over the years and keeping cardio in my routine and also taking it out for periods of time and some of the mistakes that a lot of you are probably making too. So to kick things off, the first kind of cardio that I had in my routine back when I was losing a ton of weight was what we call morning fasted cardio. Now, fasted cardio back then was what people considered to be a magical pill. The whole idea was if you wake up and you haven't eaten food in a long time, you go out and do some cardio, your body is going to tap into fat faster than if you did cardio in a fed state, meaning if you ate food prior to going out and doing your cardio, your body's just not gonna burn fat as fast. So you get up first thing in the morning, drink some water, maybe take some caffeine, or back then we took hydroxycut, which was a fat burner. It's really just a glorified, cup of coffee with some extra supplements in there. But then I would go out and do my cardio. I'm gonna get into exactly what I did here in a minute. But this whole thought process was around, oh, my body's gonna tap into fat a lot faster. Now, here's the truth. Yes, if you are in a fasted state and you go out and do cardio, meaning you don't have any food that's readily available for energy, your body will use fat more effectively than if you do cardio later in the day when you've eaten food. So it will compensate for the extra fat that it burned by burning less fat later in the day. Your body is just a well-oiled machine, and ultimately what it comes down to is the only way you're gonna lose body fat is being in a calorie deficit over an extended period of time, meaning you burn more calories than you eat over a great length of time. Even if you're doing fasted cardio, your body will, later in the day, slow down fat burning and tap into using other sources of fuel to maintain homeostasis in the body. Will you lose fat way faster by doing fasted cardio? Science says no. But I will say I am a guy who does buy into a little bit of the bro science. Now, it's not because I think the body will get ripped faster if you do fasted cardio. I just think there is something to the mental side of things. And for me, back then, when I would get up and I would go do my cardio, starting with a walk, I would just get up and walk around the neighborhood at a fast pace, I felt like I was losing fat a little bit faster. But really what it was I was starting my day on the right foot, literally. I would get up and I would move and I'd burn calories to kickstart my day. And that just got the momentum going in the right direction. So the rest of the day, I was more likely to stick to my nutrition plan, go to the gym at night and lift weights, which is part of the routine I followed back then, get some better sleep because I know I had to wake up the next morning and get up and do my cardio. So I was just locked in. So it wasn't necessarily the fasted cardio that led to fast fat loss. It was all the other things I was doing. Now keep in mind, I was in a huge calorie deficit back then. I was probably burning about 2,000 calories more than I ate every single day. When I add up the calories I consumed back then and then all the activity on top of it, I was in a big time deficit. So it's why I was able to lose all this weight really, really fast. I would not recommend you go at this pace nowadays. I've learned a lot of lessons over the years, and I had a lot of rebounding that took place. So I would lose a ton of weight and then I would rebound back up, and it took a long time for me to find a really good spot and a sustainable method. But fasted cardio was the first kind of cardio that I did. Now, when I started doing this fasted cardio, there were three things. I mentioned the walking. That was the first kind of fasted cardio that I implemented into my routine. And this was just like a 20-30 minute walk around the neighborhood. But then I wanted to increase the intensity. So I would start incline treadmill walking. Now, back in the day, I used to hold on to the top of the treadmill while I walked on a super high incline because I saw bodybuilders do that. And what I realize now is they just didn't have great cardio, so they had to hold on to the treadmill. And really, they were just trying to get cardio in any way possible. I love incline walking on the treadmill, but I would strongly recommend to not hold on to the treadmill while you're walking. If you have to hold on to the treadmill, slow the treadmill down, lower the incline, and just use your arms and power walk. This will burn slightly more calories than just walking around your neighborhood. It gets your heart rate up closer into that zone 2, which I think is great for aerobic health. Well, science says it is great for aerobic health, but it's also really good for fat burning because zone 2, your body will tap into fat pretty effectively. But incline treadmill walking was my next fasted cardio protocol. Once I really started to get good at incline walking, meaning I was walking at a 10 to 12, even a 15% incline at a 3 to 4 mile per hour pace, which is pretty rigorous. It's not easy. Then I started walking with a weight vest. So I'd walk around my neighborhood with a weight vest on, or I'd even get on the treadmill on an incline and walk with a weight vest. You do have to be careful with this because this can put a ton of stress on your knees, on your ankles, even on your feet. So if you're someone who has a lot of weight to lose, I probably wouldn't implement this till you were pretty lean already. The reason why I implemented the weight vest is because I wanted my body to continue to work as hard as it did when I was carrying all that extra weight. So as I started losing, 20, 30, 40 pounds, you add a 20-pound weight vest, well, all of a sudden your body has to work a little bit harder, so your caloric burn will be a little bit greater. These little things just added up over time, and honestly, waking up and doing cardio first thing in the morning is one of my favorite routines. These days, I don't always get to do that, but I've kind of combined it into my workout in the morning now. So with everything I have going on, from running a business, coaching clients all over the world, making sure our team has what they need. I have 2 boys, younger kids, ages 9 and 8. My wife wants to spend time with me. I have a social life. I don't have time to go to the gym twice a day. So what I do is I'll get up, I'll drink some water. I typically train fasted. Sometimes I won't, but most days I don't eat anything before the gym. I just prefer to train fasted. I'll go to the gym and I'll start my workout with a 10-minute walk. It's been my routine now for as long as I can remember, over the past 8 to 10 years. Then I'll get into my weight training, and then I'll finish my workout with a 10-minute walk. So I get like a 20-minute fasted cardio session in, plus I also lift weights in the morning. And this just helps me set the tone for the rest of the day. Do you need to do fasted cardio? If it works for your schedule, sure. If the only time of day that you can do cardio is later, when you've eaten food already, it's totally fine. At the end of the day, it's all gonna even out anyway. So as long as you're hitting your movement, your muscle training, and your meals, of course, you will lose body fat, and you'll lose fat pretty consistently. It may not be as fast as what I did, but there's other cardio routines. So let's get into the other 2 that I followed as I lost 50 pounds. So the second part of my cardio routine was post-workout cardio. People always ask, should I do cardio before or after weights? And the simple answer is you should do it after weight training. So why is that? Well, your body primarily uses sugar when it comes to lifting weights. And we call it glycogen. It's just sugar stored inside the muscle, which helps fuel your weight training session. You'll notice if you go try to lift weights and you're really depleted, let's say you haven't eaten a lot of food for a couple days, maybe no carbs, maybe you've done a lot of activity, you've burned through some of the storage in your body, and then you go and try to lift weights, you're gonna notice that your strength, your power, your explosiveness, it just isn't there. Now, if you go in the gym after a big cheat meal the night before, and you've eaten a ton of sugar or a ton of carbs, you'll notice that you feel like really, really good. Your energy's there and you have like a crazy pump. Sometimes you're even way stronger out of nowhere. That's because your glycogen is fully topped off and you're fueled up and ready to go for your workout. Now, I know I mentioned before, I usually train fasted, but I eat a pretty sizable meal at night, and that usually includes a good amount of carbs. So by the time I wake up in the morning, I'm pretty fueled up and ready to go for my workouts. It's just what I prefer. That being said, I do sometimes eat breakfast before I train. But if I went and did cardio before my workout, I'm going to zap a lot of that glycogen, and then I won't have the energy to train. That being said, if I go and train first, I'll burn through some of that glycogen, and then my body will be more likely to use fat as fuel in my post-workout cardio. Once again, things tend to even out. This isn't something you have to stick to religiously, but if you're looking to really make sure all variables are in place, in their proper place that is, I would suggest post-workout cardio. When I was losing body fat and rapidly dropping weight, my go-to post-workout cardio was the step mill. The step mill is another machine that most people shy away from because it's hard. You know, you start walking upstairs and you start to pick up the pace, and if you're not holding on to the step mill, it gets pretty difficult pretty fast. Your legs get tired, your glutes are firing, your quads are on fire, everything just starts to hurt, and your lungs are also taking a beating because your heart rate starts to spike. The step mill is a tough machine. I wouldn't recommend it for someone who is super overweight because once again, it's gonna require some strength, it's gonna require some stability and mobility. So the only reason I did it was because I've always had really strong legs. I was a catcher for almost 15 years for baseball. I squatted all day, every day. So my legs are incredibly strong and they're durable. So the step mill was something my body could handle pretty much no problem. At one point, it got pretty crazy. I was doing morning cardio on the step mill, fasted for an hour, and then I would go back and I would lift weights for an hour. And then immediately post lift, I would do another 45 minutes on the step mill. It's a lot of calories burned. Not something I recommend to any of my clients, but it's what I did. And I learned a lot of lessons doing it. So the step mill was my first post-workout cardio. The second kind of post-workout cardio I did was HIIT training. So this is high intensity interval training. I did this because I started to get bored with the step mill. And a lot of people said, oh, HIIT training, it's this new thing. You know, bodybuilders started to do a little bit of it because it's shorter. You don't have to be in the gym for an extra 45 minutes. HIIT training could be anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15, sometimes 20 minutes. It's a lot more intense. But there's this post-exercise burn that happens, right? Where your body's metabolic rate is spiked after doing high-intensity training for a period of time after your workout. So supposedly, you're burning more calories and you're not having to do as much cardio. Sounds good. Is it really in line with what science says? Somewhat, yes. But high-intensity interval training is typically done incorrectly. And I learned this lesson, thankfully, early on. A lot of people look at high intensity interval training as going as hard as you can for a set amount of time. You know, usually it's something like sprinting on a bike, you know, as fast as you can for 30 seconds to a minute. Then waiting for a certain amount of time. Typically it's resting for a minute and then going again. The problem with this is not everybody's heart is in the same type of shape. So your heart rate will spike when you're going really hard for 30 seconds to a minute or 15 seconds, however long the interval is. And then some people can recover really fast. So some people can recover in that minute rest and be ready to go again, right? Their heart rate comes back down and they're ready to go. A lot of people though can't. So their heart rate stays spiked for that minute of rest and they go right back into their fast interval. That's not true high intensity interval training. High intensity interval training is, yes, an all-out sprint for a certain period of time, followed by a rest period as long as needed to get your heart rate back down. So most people just don't have the patience to sit there and wait till their heart rate comes back down and then go again. I early on did what everybody does, right? Go hard as I can, 15, 20 seconds, rest for a minute and repeat for 6 to 8 times. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It definitely threw a little bit of a variable into my training, kept me from getting bored more than anything, but I didn't really notice any rapid changes in my physique. It just felt like I was doing more athletic training. Started doing sprints at one point, right? Where I wasn't on the bike. I was going out to a football field and I was sprinting, 100 yards and then walking back to the start and then doing it again. And I will tell you, it was tough, like really, really brutal stuff. High intensity training can really get you in better shape from an athletic standpoint. But does it lead to greater and faster fat loss? My argument is no, because I don't think a lot of people can stick to high intensity training for extended periods of time. But this is me telling you that you got to try it for yourself. At the end of the day, it's what works best for you. So if you want to mix up your training, this could be a good way to do it. But there was one other thing I did post-workout. This happens to be my current favorite way of mixing up my training. if you follow me for an extended period of time, or if this is your first time learning about me, my philosophy around training is that you shouldn't always train differently, right? You shouldn't always mix up your workouts. You don't need to try to confuse your body. In fact, you want to do the opposite. You want to give your body a chance to get better at training. You want to give it a chance to implement what's called progressive overload. So you want to stick to most of the same kind of movements for a period of time. Get stronger. Like that's number one. Get stronger on movements, whether it's machines, exercise bands, body weight. Like you want to get stronger. And if you're always changing up exercises, you're not really giving your body a fighting chance to get strong. But that being said, I also understand we live in the real world. Sometimes we need a little bit of variables. We need a little bit of new stuff. We need that dopamine hit of like, oh, it's a new workout today. So I call this finishers. And I don't know if I made this up. I probably didn't. I probably got this from somebody else, another great trainer who called it finishers. I don't know who, but somewhere along the way, I learned about finishers. Basically what it is you have your set workout, and then at the end, you do some circuit training. It's almost like CrossFit, but not stupid. So basically what it looks like is you pick 3 to 5 exercises and you do them back to back to back with no rest, and then you rest. But you're never really going all out. It's like a controlled intensity. I'll give you an example. So let's say you start with body weight lunges, and then you do the bike for 30 seconds at a fast pace. And then you do something like push-ups for a certain number of reps. And then you do something like jump squats, so you do a little bit of plyometrics. And then maybe you finish with burpees, right? Everybody's favorite exercise, burpees. But then you rest. So your heart rate gets up, but you're mixing things up. You're doing different exercises. You might throw in like a sled push. You might do some rowing. You might do the ski erg, right? There's like a lot of stuff. This actually led to me getting into this hybrid style of training and even fitness racing, because it allows you to have these finishers in your training. It's a great way to mix up the end of your workout without sabotaging the progress and goals that you have with your main bread and butter training. And by the way, it burns calories, right? So just like walking on the treadmill, it will burn a decent amount of calories if you do finishers for 15 to 30 minutes. Now I got one more kind of cardio that I did as I lost weight and actually learned to keep it off. But before we get into that, if this video has been helpful, do me a favor and just hit the like button. I just want to know if this kind of stuff is beneficial to you and if you're getting something out of it. If you're interested in learning more about the True Transformation, we have a 3M action guide that will give you our 3M blueprint right now. You can start implementing it today. You can go check that out in the description of the video. And then at the end of the video, I'll give you another opportunity to check out more things about our program. All right, the third kind of cardio that I implemented as I was losing weight is what I call cross training. Now, cross training is simply doing other kinds of fitness to just be more fit and healthy. Yes, does it fall in the category of cardio? Sure. But it really wasn't because I needed to do cardio. It was because I wanted to use my body. Now that I had lost weight, I felt like, hey, I want to be an athlete still. I want to be active. I got to do things that my body couldn't do when I was overweight. And you might be feeling the same way. If you're out there thinking, man, it's too late. I'm 50 years old. I got kids. I got this business. Yeah, I'm losing weight, but it's too late for me to be athletic. Spartan races, like swimming, like that stuff's for younger guys. Not true. Not true at all. Now, keep in mind, I lost a ton of weight in my 20s, and I was already thinking like my athletic days are behind me. My entire life leading up to that point, I had been an athlete. And part of the reason I gained so much weight is because I stopped playing sports. So I stopped doing the training that kept the weight off. And so once I was able to figure out this whole thing called fitness, in my mid-20s and even my later 20s, I was doing things like riding a bike, street bike, just get on the bike and going out for a 10 to 15 mile ride. Not because I needed to burn calories, but because, hey, like I want to be fit. I want to be athletic. I want to try new things. For a while, I tried to get good at swimming. Wasn't great at it. Still suck at it, to be honest. Swimming is probably the thing that I need to focus on more because I'm so terrible at it. But it was fun. Even doing things like going out and surfing or bodyboarding or just doing things like row machine. These are all cross-training things that honestly do a number of things. Number one, yes, they burn calories. That goes without saying. You're moving your body for an extended period of time. You're going to burn more calories than you would just by sitting there. They do get your heart rate up, so they will help with heart health. But they also can help you prevent injury. Most people don't understand this concept. It's pretty cool. It's from athletic training, but If all you're doing is the same, lifting routine, the same cardio routine over and over and over again, that can start to beat you up a little bit. So runners, for example, have kind of figured this out, especially recently, where if all they do is running, well, their body is going to take a beating and they're not going to strengthen their body to be able to run better. So what do? Well, they do cross training. So they go out and ride a bike. Sometimes instead of running, they'll do the elliptical, they'll swim, they'll do the row machine, or they'll just lift weights. And that helps prevent their body from having some breakdowns in tissue, joints that lead to injuries, and then prevent them from doing anything. So early on, I started doing some cross training. Most of it was just riding the bike or doing things like the row machine. And then over time, I added to that and I got into the hybrid training that you see me doing now. Sled pushes, just being an athlete. So if you're out there and you're thinking, man, like how do I put together a really strong cardio routine? Well, let me break it down in simple fashion for you right now before we wrap up today's video. So the first thing I would do is have a baseline of an activity standard. I call this a non-negotiable. It's just at a bare minimum, what are you gonna do every single day? I would start by tracking your steps. There's so many wearables, even your cell phone will track your steps for you if you have it in your pocket, that it's pretty easy to track how much activity you're doing. I would set a daily standard for movement. So I would say anywhere from 8,000 to 12,000 steps a day, if you're trying to lose weight, is a good place to start. Some of you might not be able to get there. If you're carrying a ton of extra weight, you might want to just start with 4,000 steps a day. Or if you're doing like 1,500 right now, maybe just go to 2,000. All I'm saying is start having a non-negotiable for your daily movement. Once you have that in place and you do that for an extended period of time, you'll probably notice if you have your meals dialed in and your training dialed in, that your body is changing. You may not need to add a whole lot to that routine for a period of time. But then I would probably have 2 days a week where I throw in some more specific cardio. Could be just getting my heart rate up for 30 minutes on the elliptical. Could be the step mill. Could be doing some of the finishers that I talked about. And the reason for this is we do want to train our heart, right? If all we're doing is low, intensity walking and our heart rate really doesn't get up that high, yeah, it's not a bad thing, but we do want to get our heart rate into that zone 2 and even sometimes zone 3 so we can actually start to strengthen our aerobic system. Our heart is arguably the most important muscle in the body. I would say it's definitely the most important muscle in the body. So we do want to train it. But just like any other muscle, you don't need to go all out every single day. A couple times a week, getting the heart rate up and then bringing it back down will do wonders for your overall health. And yes, it will help you burn more calories. So I would have your non-negotiable every single day. And then maybe a Monday and a Friday are your finishers day. And then maybe Wednesday is your high intensity intervals day. So you have 3 days of like slightly different variables with cardio, but it covers all your bases. And then if you lose weight and you get in great shape and you're like, all right, now I want to go after a performance goal, you may set up like a 12 to 16 week training block where you go after a more cardio-based goal. Something like a high rocks race or a decafit or a triathlon or a half marathon or a 10K. The list is pretty long of opportunities for you to go out and test your cardiovascular system. But that would be a full-blown training block where most of your training is based around that goal. That being said, cardio is a fundamental piece of fitness. Anybody out there who is promoting this, don't have to do cardio type of approach or screw cardio, it's not good, all it does is burn calories, you could just stick to your diet. They're full of crap. I would totally run, literally, away from them. Now, that being said, if you're looking for a full-blown system, if you're like, hey, I need to change my life, I need to change my body, it's time for me to make a permanent transformation. That's where our 3M system comes into play. You can learn all about it in the description of this video. I put a link for you to check out that walks you through the entire roadmap that we've taken thousands of people before you through. And of course, it's all done with trying to keep your lifestyle intact, your personal and professional life where you want it to be, so you don't have to sacrifice the things that are important to you in order to just lose a few pounds. Ultimately, we want to teach you how to make fitness a permanent part of your life without giving up the things you care about. If that sounds interesting to you, check out that link. But in the meantime, subscribe to the channel. We put out a couple videos every single week at a bare minimum. Once again, my name is Josiah Novak, and I will talk to you on the next video. Life moves fast. Make it count. Peace.